USS North Carolina. The USS North Carolina was one of the most powerful ships in World War II. It is also said to be extremely haunted by a number of entities, two of which stand out in particular. One of the main ghosts is a cheerful presence. A young blonde man working on the ship even after his demise. He is harmless but quite mischievous. The doors and hatches he opens and closes while he bustles about in its duties can be quite startling for those who encounter them. There have also been reports of other similar ghosts, but they are mostly minding their own business. They wordlessly continue the onboard tasks they performed while alive. However, there is another, more malicious presence on board. There have been reports of encounters with an angry, shadow-like entity that fills the room with anger and hate, sending the poor person facing it running in panic. Fort Bellefontaine. Fort Bellefontaine is an odd military ghost, because there are no ghostly soldiers or generals to be seen. Instead, the fort itself is said to be a paranormal entity, much like a haunted house. The supernatural experiences range from unexplainable experiences, like strange sights and sounds, to the fort's mysterious main staircase. Pictures taken on its second step show a mysterious, dark red smoke embracing the stairs. No natural explanation for the smoke has been found. The ghosts of USS Arizona. In 1941, the battleship USS Arizona famously sank in the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, taking the vast majority of its crew with it. 2 decades later, a large, floating memorial was constructed, directly above its rusting, watery grave. Ever since the opening of the memorial, many have witnessed strange phenomena that seem to suggest the spirits of the sailors still linger on. Visitors have reported a multitude of frightening experiences, ranging from strange, floating orbs to sounds of bombing, and even a horribly burnt ghostly shipman wandering the halls in never-ending agony. Perhaps most eerily, the massive ship underneath still bubbles oily droplets to the surface, which is said to create an effect that is a lot like breathing. Sometimes, this leakage is said to form pictures of faces. Jefferson Barracks. There are many haunted castles and forts in the world, but Jefferson Barracks can boast more ghost sightings than many of the others combined. A St. Louis military complex that was established in 1826. The barracks has seen pretty much all the military action that has ever taken place on the U.S. soil. This has left it with some very strange scars. There are 42 buildings in Jefferson Barracks' grounds, and nearly all of them are said to be haunted. The barracks is still used, yet, if the stories are to be believed, there are more dead soldiers hanging around than live ones. People say the main building is haunted by a legion of ghosts, up to and including an old Civil War general that haunts the post commander's office, forever dispatching orders. Barracks and prison buildings are plagued by floating apparitions, mysterious footsteps, and disembodied voices screaming drill orders. The hospital is haunted by a host of ghosts in Civil War uniforms, some smoky specters, others realistic enough to pass for a living person and even communicate. However, the absolute least favorite place for the soldiers is probably the powder magazine. The poor men tasked with guarding the building sometimes find themselves face to face with an angry ghost guard that challenges them for their post, blood streaming from the bullet hole in his forehead. The Alamo Ghosts. The Battle of the Alamo is one of the most famous moments of the Texas Revolution, and the missionary site that is the battle's namesake has since become one of the most legendary war memorials in the U.S. Incidentally, it's also one of the most haunted. Stories of Alamo ghosts got their start almost immediately after the battle, when a Mexican general sent to demolish the building was said to have encountered 6 robed ghosts that brandished fiery swords and threatened his life if he touched the site. As years went by, rumors of Alamo hauntings grew in variety. People witnessed spirits of Texan soldiers who fought the battle and eerie, inhuman shapes emerging from the building after hours. Perhaps the most famous of the supposed ghosts is the so-called Alamo Sentry, a usually invisible ghost soldier, whose heavy footsteps patrol the building's roof on rainy nights. Incidentally, this isn't particularly impressive feat for the ancient spirit since the Alamo didn't have a walkable roof until quite recently. Fort Pulaski. Fort Pulaski stands by the beautiful Savannah River in Georgia, and is presided over by the National Park Service. However, it has a dark history that belies its current peaceful nature. It used to be a Civil War prison, where over 500 Confederate officers froze and starved in their cells over the hellish winter of 1864 to 1865. As such, Fort Pulaski is reported to have a hostile and heavy air. There's also a stairwell with a particularly cruel history. When the fort saw battle, the wounded soldiers were unceremoniously dumped in the stairwell to die. These soldiers are said to still haunt the staircase, attempting to climb it despite their grievous wounds in order to return to the battlefield.